"Mama, that little girl is sitting all by herself." Petra Hollins looked where her 4-year-old son Cody was pointing, and saw her. A small girl in a yellow dress, sitting very still in a wheelchair near the edge of the cotton candy booth, watching the fair with wide, quiet eyes. Around her, children ran and laughed and pulled at their parents' hands. No one stopped. No one looked twice. Petra felt something tighten gently in her chest. She was 29, raising Cody alone on a daycare worker's salary, and today's fair tickets had come from a coupon she'd clipped 3 weeks ago. The cotton candy in her hand was a small luxury, shared. She'd bought one and torn it in half without thinking about it. That was simply how she lived. "Come on," she said to Cody, taking his hand. "Let's go say hello." The little girl's name was Iris. She was 4 years old, with her father's serious eyes and her late mother's quiet smile, though Petra wouldn't learn either of those details until much later. Iris had a spinal condition that had taken her mobility at age 2. She had learned in the careful way that small children learn difficult things, to find her joy in observation, in watching, noticing, being present in the world from whatever angle it offered her. Petra crouched down to Iris's level and held out half the cotton candy. "My son says you might want some of this," she said warmly. "He's very generous, gets it from his mother." Cody nodded solemnly in confirmation. Iris looked at the cotton candy, then at Cody, then at Petra, and she smiled, slow and real, the way children smile when they've decided something is safe. They spent the next hour together, the 4 of them drifting through the fair in an easy, unplanned way. Cody walked beside Iris's wheelchair and narrated everything he saw with the breathless authority of a 4-year-old who considers himself an expert on all subjects. Petra pushed the wheelchair through the grass easily, without making it a thing, without performing helpfulness, just doing it the way you'd hold a door for anyone. She had not noticed, when she first approached, the man standing 20 feet away near the lemonade stand. He had been watching. He had been watching the entire time, with the particular attention of a father who has learned to read every environment for his daughter's safety, and who has also learned, with a heaviness he carried quietly, that most environments were not built with his daughter in mind. His name was Fletcher Wynn, 33 years old, CEO of Wynn Infrastructure Group, a firm he had built methodically over a decade into one of the region's most respected construction and development companies. He wore no tie today, no markers of what he was outside this fairground, just a father in a plain shirt, holding 2 lemonade cups, watching his daughter laugh at something a small boy had said. He walked over slowly. "She hasn't laughed like that in a while," he said, not as an opener, just as a fact, said to the air as much as to Petra. Petra looked up. "She's wonderful," she said simply. "Cody's already decided they're best friends. He makes these decisions very fast." Fletcher looked at his daughter. Something moved across his face. Relief, maybe, or the particular softness that comes when a fear you've been carrying quietly turns out to be smaller than you thought. They found a bench near the carousel. The children watched the horses turn. Fletcher and Petra talked the way people do when they're both a little tired and a little honest, without the usual performances. He told her about Iris's condition, about the 2 years of specialists and equipment and insurance battles, about how his late wife, Clara, had handled it all with a grace he still couldn't fully account for, and how her absence 18 months ago had left him managing everything alone, including the grief Iris was too young to name, but clearly carried in her stillness. Petra listened, the way she always listened, fully, without rushing towards solutions. "She doesn't seem like a sad child," Petra said carefully. "She seems like a child who notices everything." Fletcher was quiet for a moment. "That's exactly right," he said. "That's exactly what she is." Then Petra told him, not because he'd asked, but because the conversation had earned it, about Cody's father leaving before Cody was born, about the daycare job and the coupon book, and the particular discipline of building a life around what you have rather than what you wish you had. She said it without bitterness. She had processed the bitterness years ago, in the private way single mothers process most things. What she did not mention, what she had told almost no one, was the envelope in her apartment desk. Petra's grandmother Doris had passed 8 months earlier and left behind a modest estate. Modest by any external measure, but for Petra, significant. Enough to change things. Enough to open a small childcare center of her own. The dream she had sketched in notebooks for 4 years and never spoken aloud because it felt too fragile to say out loud. She hadn't touched the money yet. She was still sitting with it, the way you sit with something important before you move. She thought about it sometimes on days like this, watching Cody navigate the world with his whole heart open, watching children like Iris who needed more than standard environments offered, and wondering if the dream in her notebook was actually larger than she had drawn it. Fletcher, who built things for a living, had a habit of seeing what wasn't there yet. He noticed it in conversations too, the shape of an unspoken plan, the careful way someone talked around something they hadn't yet committed to saying. But 2 weeks later, when he called to ask if Cody and Iris might have a playdate, his voice steady and genuine, nothing complicated in it. Petra said yes, and they met at a park, and the children ran, and the adults talked again, longer this time. Over the following months, the friendship between the families grew the way real things grow, slowly, with roots, without performance. And one afternoon, when Petra finally told Fletcher about the envelope and the notebook and the childcare center she wanted to build, one designed from the ground up to be fully accessible, the kind of place Iris could move through without being an afterthought, he was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "I build things, that's what I do." A pause. "Tell me what you've drawn." The center opened 14 months later, on a quiet street with good light. It was small and carefully designed. Every doorway, every corner, every surface chosen with intention. Cody helped carry boxes on moving-in day with the focused pride of a child who understands, dimly but genuinely, that something important is happening. Iris came on the first morning. She rolled through the entrance without slowing down. Fletcher stood at the door and watched her go. Petra stood beside him. "She doesn't look like a child sitting by herself anymore," he said quietly. Petra smiled. "She never was," she said. "She just needed someone to come over." Kindness doesn't wait for the right moment or the right person. It sees a child sitting alone and walks over. And sometimes from that single step, an entire world is built. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. Let's spread more stories of kindness and hope together.